welcome to the FM podcast. I'm your host, the Blackman. So as y'all know, I like to start each episode describing the aim and the objective of our show. Now, our aim is to analyze intersexual dynamics that is often portrayed in popular media, and our objective is to enlighten young men to the dangers of female-oriented thinking and understand, as a man in today's society, there is a burden of performance that you must adhere to. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the latter of the two. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, get all of our latest news and updates. Follow us on all of our social medias at the Blackman Pod. There's nobody else in the space that's doing what we're doing. The media programming wants young men to believe that by being more open and vulnerable, this will allow women to value you more. And in turn, by valuing you more, they're more likely to keep you around and more willing to enter into sexual relationships with you. But the traits of being open and vulnerable may be attractive. However, most women would not find these traits arousing. But it's best to think of attraction as a choice and arousal as an involuntary reflex. And as a young man, you want not only attractive traits, but arousing as well. And this is because what women say they are attracted, actually aroused by, are oftentimes not synonymous. And with that being said, let's get into today's show. We opened the show today, we talked about vulnerability, open communication, and how women like to use these buzzwords to describe qualities that they find attractive. These traits that women say that they are attracted to are not aroused. I want to show you how women respond to these traits that they say that they are so attracted to. I want you to make sure that you like this video, comment below in the comment section. Also, lastly, follow, hit that subscribe button, get all the updated and new content that we're going to be pushing out. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss this. If you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, push us higher up in the algorithm and give us a follow as well. Hit that subscribe button. You're going to get all of our latest updates, content. Now, before we get into our breakdown of season 1, episode 2 of How I Met Your Mother, discussing attraction and arousal, I want to say a few things before we actually get to our breakdown, which will be discussing attraction and arousal. What we've learned is that women, just like men, have their own unrealistic ideas about the type of man that they desire. This was made much more evident to me as I watched the Beacon movie starring Jason Statham. Jason Statham's character is the ideal man for most women. He's masculine, he's tough, rugged, and yet he can be compassionate, affectionate, and even gentle at times. Alexander Skarsgård's character in The Legend of Tarzan also displays some of these contradictory traits. It's comparable to men who want a hot, sexy, pervasive woman who's modest, humble, and sexually chaste, except when it comes to him. This idealized version of the mate is also as highly unlikely as the woman's idealized version of her mate. However, men will often overlook a lack of some of these traits in a younger woman and exclude dealing with older women that may have an abundance of some of these traits. And women, much like men, will forego some of these attractive traits in a man, such as empathy, affection, and compassion. For a man that has few of these traits, but is of a higher status. It's like the data that we just previously looked at. Women choose to prioritize status above everything else in a man, and men tend to often prioritize youth and fertility above everything else. Now, women would have you believe that they are interested in a sweet, loving guy, but only if that guy is wrapped up in a Jason Statham persona. Because women, much like men, have unrealistic ideals about the type of mate that they actually desire. Much like the woman that wants a dominant, masculine man that is gentle, sweet, and caring. The man wants a modest and chaste woman, but is humble enough to not let her looks define her or her personality. One scenario is as unrealistic as as the other. However, in today's time, the man is more likely to realize and understand that their idealized mate is highly unattainable and likely does not exist in reality. However, many modern women are less likely to believe that their idealized mate is non-existent and more likely to believe that that idealized version of their mate is not only out there, but that he is willing to be monogamous to her. If you watch most movies, television shows, and advertisements today, you will notice an attack on men's unwillingness to be open, affectionate, and communicative. In short, men who refuse to emote as women are often ostracized in today's society. So, before we get into today's breakdown, I think it's best for our young men to understand that it's important to work on your arousing traits as a man. To understand you should always be working on things that help you achieve higher status while honing your masculine traits such as stoicism and frame. Just like women should always be working on things that would help them achieve healthier bodies while continually working on their feminine traits such as chastity and modesty. On the show today, we talked about vulnerability, open communication, and how women like to use these buzzwords to describe qualities that they find attractive in men. These traits that women say that they are attracted to are not arousing. I want to show you how women respond to these traits that they say that they are so attracted to. I want you to make sure that you like this video. Comment below in the comment section. Also, lastly, follow, hit that subscribe button, get all the updated and new content that we're going to be pushing out. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss this. Let's go ahead and get into our next segment. Toxic masculinity has been the backdrop of several recent stories about workplace sexual harassment and assault, discrimination against women, and sexist work cultures. Do not conform to this troubling brand of masculinity. But while the survey results suggest that attitudes have changed, the same can't be said for men's behavior. A review of 94 psychological studies, including more than 24,000 people and spanning the past 40 years, found that while women have adapted to workplace norms by engaging in more stereotypically male behavior, becoming more assertive, actively displaying ambition, and showing strength and confidence, men have not adapted alongside. Even though business increasingly relies on relationships, trust, and reputation, men are not becoming more compassionate, warm, and understanding. Instead, many men focus on leading and influencing the fear and dominance rather than building consensus and creating safe environments for employees to share ideas. Why? Research demonstrates that much the same way women face unfair backlash effects for being more masculine or not feminine enough, men similarly face backlash for not adhering to masculine gender stereotypes. This backlash is likely one, but of course not the only reason that men engage in behaviors that will harm women and are detrimental to their own careers. So let's back that up. Let's more this one. It says that while women have adapted to workplace norms by engaging in more stereotypically male behavior, this means women becoming more assertive, actively displaying ambition, and showing strength and confidence. Basically, what they're telling you is that men haven't been able to emote as women have learned to emote as men, which is a false premise in my opinion, because I would argue that women still can't emote like men. They just can imitate behaviors of men, but they can't actually emote. And then it goes on to say that business relies on relationships, trust, and reputation. Men are not becoming more compassionate, warm, and understanding. Instead, they focus on leading and influencing through fear and dominance rather than building consensus and creating safe environments for employees to share ideas. Granted, this is anecdotal, but most of my bosses that have actually led by fear, most of the bosses that I've had that have tried to lead through fear and dominance, a good majority of them have been women. I probably can count on one hand, possibly, the amount of male bosses or male leaders that I've had that have tried to lead through dominance and fear. However, I can at least count on few hands. The amount of female bosses that I've had that have been bitches, it's quite amazing, actually. Because I would say I've worked for about half and half female and male bosses, and almost all of the female bosses, maybe a couple were not bitches, but majority of them were. I want to know what y'all thing. How many female bosses have you had that have tried to lead to dominance and fear? Just another caveat. Women bosses, they tend to have no balance. They think that to emote like a man or to behave like men is to insult and to denigrate. Most of the bosses that I've had that have been horrible to work for have almost entirely been female. Does that mean that I've never had a male boss that's been a dick? Of course not. I've had a couple, but the ones that are females, they stand out. Side story. I had one job. I had both female and male bosses. It depended on what day you worked. If you worked through, let's say, Tuesday through Friday, you would get the male bosses or the male leaders. But if you were Saturday through Monday, then the female leaders. And it was actually one female and one femboy. That's all I can say. One of those wannabe transformers. So the female and the wannabe transformer, we'll just call them, they were horrible to work for. They did all kind of sneaky, snaky shit. And I just dreaded working for them. And the male leaders, they were actually quite pleasant to work for. They understood the job and they actually would relay that information in a respectful manner to their workers versus the female and the wannabe transformer. They try to use fear and dominance. Let's say we have like safety regulation. We have things that we have to adhere to. The male bosses, they try to help reason and explain why things were that way, that you needed to try to get the stat down. And the female and the wannabe transformer, well, they actually try to instill fear, right? Telling us they're going to cut hours or they're going to send us home. And they try to be dominant rather than trying to build trust with their workers, as this article is stating. So I just disagree with that. That's my own anecdotal experience. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How many female bosses have you had, and have it mostly been pleasant or a bad experience for you? But let's continue on. So now that we have that, but then they go on to say in this article, that's right, that the same way women face unfair backlash effects for being more masculine or not feminine enough, men similarly face backlash for not adhering to masculine gender stereotypes. Let's put a pin in that. Men similarly face backlash for not adhering to masculine gender stereotypes. Why are we discussing men getting penalized for not acting like men? Because it goes back to our opening, which is that females don't actually value that in men. It's something that they pay lip service to. Women don't actually value being open and vulnerable in men. It's just the icing on the cake. It's like for a man, right? Well, the cake for us is she's hot, attractive, and she's sexually changed. Now, so the icing on the cake will be the female actually being able to understand complex ideas and basically use logic and not be so emotional. Have a thoughtful conversation on politics, for instance, or actually being able to think outside of more than the feminine ideas that penetrate your mind daily, right? She's hot, she's attractive, but she's also into some of the things that pique a male's interest. So it's like the best of both worlds. That's what females want. They're telling you they want the best of both worlds. They want a guy that is like Jason Statham, like character, emotions of Timothy Chalamet or a Tom Holland. Yeah, it's just not how males operate. But let's continue. So I'm just going to go over a few points in this article. If you want to read it yourself, get a deeper look at it. Again, that is Harvard Business Review, How Men Get Penalized and Straying from That Masculine Norms. Here we go. So it says, when women behave in ways that don't fit their gender stereotype, for example, by being assertive, they are viewed as less likable and ultimately less hireable. Does that saying hold true for men? Are they similarly penalized for straying from the strong masculine stereotype? The short answer is yes. Research demonstrates that men too face backlash when they don't adhere to masculine gender stereotypes, when they show vulnerability, act nicer, display empathy, express sadness, exhibit modesty, and proclaim to be feminist. This is troubling not least because it discourages men from behaving in ways known to benefit their teams and their own careers. Let's look at each of these behaviors. So what they're telling you right there is that based on their survey, that men are actually discouraged from behaving in ways that women say they want them to behave, or that women would like them to behave. Now, that's going to come back into play later. Like I said, I'm going to put a pin in that. There's a pertinent point there, which is who is wanting this behavior change? Who is hindering this behavior change in men? So let's go into showing vulnerability. Men are socialized to not ask for help or be vulnerable, and they can be penalized when they challenge this notion. An informative set of studies from 2015 finds that when male, but not female, leaders ask for help, they are viewed as less competent and capable. And when men make themselves vulnerable by disclosing a weakness at work, they are perceived to have lower status. This is problematic, as not seeking help when you need it or admitting areas for improvement inevitably leads to mistakes and less development. So I think that's very good information there, which is when male leaders, but not female leaders, ask for help, they're seen as less competent and capable. When they disclose weakness at work, they're perceived to have lower status. Notice how they didn't say in that part who they're getting those negative effects from. Given that many of us want more nice guys at work, we might assume that men will be celebrated for being calm and unassuming. Wrong. Research has found that men who are more communal and agreeable, meaning that they are caring, supportive, more sympathetic, they make significantly less money than more stereotypically masculine men. More agreeable men across multiple industries made an average of 18% less in income and were evaluated as less likely to have management potential as compared to less agreeable men. All right, man, there you go right there. I'm pretty sure most of you guys have heard the old nice guy trope. You lose! Women say, I want a nice guy. Where are all the nice guys going? Well, you can see right here that nice guys make less money than their more masculine counterpart. If just not for profit alone, you can't be nice. You can't be perceived as nice, at least. You have to have somewhat of an edge to you, because that's what makes you a man. Is a man that's not feared truly a man? Put in the comments below. I want to know. What are your thoughts? Let's continue. It says, similarly, nice guys were evaluated as less competent and less hireable managerial roles. From women, the more masculine a woman is, the less hireable she is. It's the inverse for men. The more feminine or the more likable, the less hireable they are as a man, according to the study. At least for managerial roles. One experimental study found that male managers tended to advocate more for their team than for themselves, were judged to be lower in agency and competence and more likely to be considered for job dismissal. Unfortunately, given the cost, real and psychological, of being a nice guy at work, men may be less likely to engage in these behaviors that can help their own career and make them better colleagues. Now, notice, again, they don't tell you who sees these men as less competent and less hireable. It can't just be other men forcing these stereotypes. It has to be both men and women. Because if men are getting favorable results from women, why would they necessarily care to change if they're getting the results they want from the women? Who cares if the men don't like you, or who cares if the men look at you negative, as long as you're getting somewhere with women? Let's continue. Well, empathy is an important part of leadership. However, women are more likely to receive credit for it than men. A recent study found that female leaders who displayed empathy as reported by their employees were less likely to be in danger of career derailment. For example, the problems with interpersonal relationships, difficulty building and leading teams, still changing and adapting, failure in meeting business goals and objectives, and having too narrow a functional orientation. Men did not give the speech. There was no relationship between male leaders' empathy and their bosses' assessment of potential career derailment. These findings are consequential because displaying empathy is critical for leading effectively. So it says that men don't get credit for displaying empathy. But again, it's not just the men that don't give them credit. Women also aren't giving them credit. And empathy, like as I stated, put your thoughts in the comments below. I've had maybe a couple of empathetic female bosses or female leaders. And I understand this is purely anecdotal, but most of the female bosses and leaders that I've had, they are not empathetic. They're very narrow-minded also. They care about meeting these goals that the company might want to hit, but they're not very empathetic and trying to reach those goals. They don't really build trust among the team. They might have a few that they are very cool with or like, but overall, the whole team, it hasn't been a very good experience. Let's continue. Expressing sadness. U.S. men are socialized to be stoic. What happens when they show their emotions other than anger? Research demonstrates that men who show sadness at work are thought of as less deserving of that emotion as compared to sad women. Again, who is reinforcing this? Is it only men, or is it both men and women? Or is it just women? They don't say. So a study from 2017 found that men who cry at work are perceived as more emotional and less competent than women who cry. And when men cry in response to performance feedback, the feedback provider rates them as a lower performer, less likely to get promoted, and less capable as compared to women who cry. While we don't want men or women regularly crying at work, an authentic work environment has to allow all employees to experience the same emotion without penalty. When women say, I want a man to be open and vulnerable, expressing his emotion, which includes sadness, I'm going to call BS every time. Because as this article states, men cry, they're perceived as lower status, less capable than women that do the same thing. And this is what I mean. They don't tell you who is perceiving them as lower status, who's perceiving them as less than. Is it men? Is it women? Or is it both? And if you have a movie or a television show you'd like us to cover next, make sure you comment below. Hashtag FM Podcast. So we have a couple more, and then we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the other side. What happens when men display modesty? Happen out to us growing our channel. So again, make sure you like the video for us. Exhibiting modesty. What happens when men display modesty? Research demonstrates that men who are more humble in expressing their qualifications were evaluated as less likable, less authentic, and weaker than modest women. Similarly, men in the hiring process who were more self-effacing were evaluated by potential employers as lower in competence and less desirable to hire as compared to self-effacing women. With the increasing awareness of the detrimental effects of narcissism at work, we should encourage men's modesty rather than penalize it. So, talks about men that are modest are more likely to be seen as less competent, less likable. So, that's where you get that guy. They don't tell you who's viewing these men as less competent. It can't be just men, right? And that is my point of this whole article, is to show you that all of these things that women say that they look for in men, the modesty is basically telling men, don't be modest. If you want to be seen as more competent, if you want to be more like you need to be competent. That is the key. That is basically what they're telling you here with exhibiting modesty. Men who are more confident are viewed as more competent. Let's move on to the last part of things. Being a feminist or feminine. As noted previously, a sizable percentage of American men self-identify as being a feminist. However, research shows that feminist men are more likely to be the victims of sexual harassment, from being told inappropriate jokes to being the recipient of unwanted sexual advances. In addition, research shows that men are more likely to be harassed when they work in male-dominated jobs and perceived as too feminine. Research finds that men who ask for family leave, something that was historically in the purview of women, are viewed as poor workers and are less recommended for rewards compared to female counterparts. We should be welcoming feminist men rather than derogating them for not being man enough. Here, they talk about being a feminist. They say that feminist men are more likely to be the victims of sexual harassment, such as being told inappropriate jokes. So, like, being told inappropriate jokes, that's just commonplace in male behavior, telling an inappropriate joke. And it doesn't have to necessarily be inappropriate jokes about women, just be inappropriate jokes altogether. Whereas women are more communal. They're not going to tell inappropriate jokes like that because it might offend somebody in the group. And since they are more communal, they don't want to offend anybody in the group. They want to be, remember, women are more likable. It goes on to also state that men that work in male-dominated jobs can be seen as too feminine. It goes on to also state that men will be harassed that work in male-dominated jobs that are perceived as too feminine. Again, they're using harass, but because it's male behavior. He's probably getting picked on. He probably getting rid of, right? New guy on the team, or this is how men communicate amongst each other. This is how men try to make friends. This is how men try to show solidarity. Women lie to each other to make friends, whereas men are brutally honest to each other to make friends. It's just the way that we're raised. Women lie to each other to be more likable, that's to not offend the group. And men are brutally honest to each other to seem more likable, to seem more trustworthy. And that is how males make friends. Because as a man, we can't trust you if you're not being. And as for women, well, they need to not offend the group, so they can't be truthful and honest. They're actually rewarded for that. So what do you think? Make sure you like the video, hit that subscribe button. Greatly appreciate it. All right, we got one more data set to look at. All right, so this is socialsci.libretext.org, and it looks like it's written by Erica Gorling and Emerson Wolf. Now, in this text, we're going to look at a few things that we opened the show with, such as attraction, arousal. We're going to discuss that in greater length when we look at this data here, and what are men attracted to, what are women attracted to. Now, before we get into this textbook, we got to be a little intelligent in calling out the conflation between attractive and arousal. It's easier to think of arousal as an involuntary reflex and attraction as a choice. And so we're going to take a look at what they say, because this looks like textbook on introduction to human sexuality. So this is what they're teaching in the school. So let's take a look at what they say. And in this, their learning objectives are going to be summarizing the variables that lead to initial attraction between people, outline the variables that lead us to perceive someone as physically attractive, describe the ways that similarity and complementarity influence our liking for others, define the concept of mere exposure and explain how proximity influences liking, and provide a very brief overview of evolutionary research into attraction. So, for example, for men, a woman that has, let's say, plentiful mammary glands, but she was not good looking. Most men would be aroused by that woman. They just wouldn't be attracted to her. See the difference? Men are visual creatures. Maybe she is less than good looking, but she has a nice body. That is arousing to most men. However, they just might not find it attractive. So there's a distinction between arousal and attraction. And I think it's smart to call that out. I think it's intelligent to call that out whenever we see it. So it's easier to think of it like that. Attraction as a choice and arousal as an involuntary reflex. What do the sexes like in the other sex that they just naturally are aroused by? Again, attraction and arousal are two different things. And most people like to use both of them interchangeably, and they are different in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the text in this and give our thoughts on the other side. Now, we're going to start physical attractiveness. Although it may seem inappropriate or shallow to admit it, and although it is certainly not the only determinant of liking, people are strongly influenced, at least in initial encounters, by the physical attractiveness of their partners. Elaine Walster and her colleagues arranged a field study in which college boys and girls were randomly paired at a computer dance. After the partners had danced and talked for a couple hours, they were interviewed separately about their own preferences and characteristics, as well as the perceptions of their date. Walster and her colleagues found that the only important determinant of participants' liking for their date was his or her physical attractiveness. None of the other characteristics, even the perceived intelligence of the partner, mattered. All right, that line there is important. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that line. It says that the participants' liking for their date was his or her physical attractiveness. None of the other characteristics, even the perceived intelligence of the partner, mattered. So for all those women that like to tell you, I like a nice guy and I like a guy that's smart, when they give you that nonsense, just know that's exactly what it is, nonsense. Because as this study says, that none of the characteristics, even the perceived intelligence of the partner matter. And you know, women, they love to say that. Oh, I like a smart guy. If that guy is smart, attractive, and he has other characteristics. This also applies to men. We already know that. Attractiveness is the first thing, but it may also surprise some men and women that women also have to be attractive first. Women will go on about all this nonsense about the icing on the cake without actually giving you the ingredients for the cake. No other show on YouTube is doing what we're doing. Hit that like button. we're breaking down truths all over the media here. So none of the other characteristics, even the perceived intelligence of the partner matter. That's the first thing. And when they say physical attractiveness isn't attraction. Physical attractiveness is more akin to arousal. These are the first things that we see. For men, it's the physical attractiveness of the woman and other characteristics that men may find arousing, such as youth and fertility. Now, for women, that is physical attractiveness, status, resources, etc. So it's just a different starting point, but there is a similar shared interest in that starting point, which is physical attractiveness. For both men and women, you both have to pass that bar of physically attractive. Are you physically attractive to me? And that could differ from person to person, but physical attractiveness is the starting point. Now let's go on. It says, perhaps this finding doesn't surprise you too much given the importance of physical attractiveness in our culture. Movies and TV shows feature attractive people. TV ads use attractive people to promote their products, and we spend millions of dollars each year to make ourselves look more attractive. Even infants who are only a year old prefer to look at faces that adults consider attractive rather than at unattractive faces. People who are attractive are also seen as having a variety of positive characteristics, and these traits are activated quickly and spontaneously when we see their faces. Attractive people are seen as more sociable, altruistic, and intelligent than their unattractive counterpart. Now, when they use attractive in this instance, they make it seem like a choice. They say people who are attractive are also seen as having a variety of positive characteristics, and these traits are activated quickly and spontaneously when we see their faces. And does that sound like a choice? That is an involuntary reflex. So when they use attractive in this instance, it's not that it's a wrong word, but I think arousing would be a better word, because arousing is the involuntary reflex. And here you have them saying these traits activate quickly. That seems more like an involuntary reflex rather than a choice that someone's making. Again, as it says all that about attractive people, I would possibly substitute arousing, because attractive, like I said, give connotation that it's a choice. When you hear them use attraction when it comes to physical attractiveness, I would typically use arousal in that instance, because when you're talking about physical attraction or a physical attractiveness of a mate, what do we find attractive? For instance, I may find that a woman that likes anime is attractive to me. Now, that's a choice that I'm making. But are women that are into anime always attractive to me? No, because she has to pass the physical attractiveness part first. So when you're talking about things like that, I would say arousing, because attraction is not the right word to use, in my opinion. It'd be more intelligent to use arousing or rousing rather than attractive here. Like I said, when you're talking about somebody's physical attractiveness, that's something that people don't necessarily make choices in. They just find it arousing because that is what arouses them. It's an involuntary reflex. Although it is sometimes said that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, for example, that each person has his or her own idea about what beautiful is, this is not completely true. This point I'm making, that arousal has nothing to do with each person having their own idea. What men find arousing is pretty straightforward, just like what women find arousing is pretty straightforward. It's just that the formula for that is different between men and women. You need the physical attractiveness on both parts first, and then from there, and it's either fertility. For women, it's status and competency. And even this text is saying the same thing. There is good agreement among people, including children, and within and across cultures, about which people are most physically attractive. If your instructor asks the students in class to rate each of their attractiveness, there will be a general agreement among them on which students are most and least attractive. This agreement is in part due to shared norms within cultures about what is attractive, but is also due to evolutionary predispositions to attend to and be influenced by specific characteristics of others. And they try to blend arousal and attraction in the same. The first part, they're talking about attraction. This agreement is in part due to shared norms within cultures about what is attractive. That deals with attraction. because it's due to shared norms within our culture. So we make choices about how we move about in our culture to define attraction. But it is also due to evolutionary predispositions to attend to and to be influenced by specific characteristics of others. That is arousal. Let me repeat it again. That is arousal, because anything that is due to evolutionary predispositions is going to deal with arousal. Over hundreds of years, men have just been aroused by big bosomed, big bottomed young females. Why? Because they produced the most children in the past, and that's how we got to where we're at right now. That has to do with arousal. But does that mean that that big bottom, big bosom woman who is probably very fertile, does that mean that she's attractive? Does that mean she looks good to me? Not necessarily. And the conflation of the two is actually happening within the same sentence. If your instructor asks the students in your class to rate each other on their attractiveness, there will be a general agreement among them on which students are most and least attractive. This agreement is in part due to shared norms within cultures about what is attractive, deals with attraction, but it also is due to evolutionary predispositions to attend to and be influenced by specific characteristics of others. That is arousal. One's an involuntary reflex, one's a choice. Can you see the difference between the two? Do you see that distinction? So it says here, Leslie Zebrowitz and her colleagues have extensively studied the tendency for both men and women to prefer facial features that have youthful characteristics. These features include large, round, and widely spaced eyes, a small nose and chin, prominent cheekbones, and a large forehead. Zebrowitz has found that individuals who have youthful-looking faces are more liked, are judged as warmer and more honest, and also receive other positive outcomes. Parents give baby-faced children fewer chores and punishments, and people with young-looking faces are also required to pay lower monetary awards in courtroom trials. On the other hand, baby-faced individuals are also seen as less competent than their more mature-looking counterparts. That's the give and take, right? That is pros and cons, essentially. The pro is you get all these awards, but the con is you're seen as less competent. Most women, they like the fact that they get all these benefits and awards for being a woman, but they don't like that they are seen as even sometimes less competent. But that's the breaks. That's life. Here is sitting here telling you that younger looking people, so that means a man that could be 40 and he looks like he's 25 could be seen as less competent as a man that's 35 that looks older than him. Them's the breaks, as they say. That's the part of life. There's pros and cons to everything. It goes on to say, the preference for youth is found in our perceptions of both men and women, but it is somewhat stronger for our perceptions of women. This is because for men, although we do prefer youthful faces, we also prefer masculine faces. So they're essentially saying that perceptions for youth is lower in women to men, meaning that women don't care for men to look as young as men care for women to look as young. I know it's kind of confusing the way they word this, but it'll make sense as they go on. So it says, so those with low, I don't know why it words it this way. And this could be the media programming, right? So for men, although women do prefer youthful faces, they also prefer masculine faces. Those with low, broad jaws and with pronounced bone ridges and cheekbones. And these men tend to look somewhat older. So it's kind of showing you, and I've always said this, and this is something that this is a this is a hot take, but an older man that looks young is of no benefit to a man. It's a lot of benefit to a woman. And in fact, when you see a man that looks younger than what he actually is, more often than not, it's the woman that tends to compliment him. It's typically the woman that's more appreciative of that man's ability to stay young looking. Even though men will comment and maybe give some praise to the man because he looks younger than what he is, it's the woman that is more appreciative of the fact that that man is younger looking. And that's because as a woman, they wish that they could be younger looking. So, but as a man looking young, it's only a physical attraction because it's telling you here that people with young looking faces are seen as less competent as their older counterparts. That doesn't help you as a man, being seen as less competent. And it also goes on to say that men that have youthful faces, well, they're not masculine looking faces, which is what women prefer. Women prefer masculine faces, and those faces tend to look older. So the man that looks young at an older age isn't actually benefiting in neither in status because if he's younger looking, he's going to be seen as less competent as his older looking counterparts even though he may be older than they are. It continues to go on and say that we may like baby-faced people because they remind us of babies, or perhaps because we respond to baby-faced people positively, they may act more positively to us. So it's almost like the chicken or the egg. Do we respond to people that look younger positive because they are baby-like and that's just within our nature, or are people that have youthful looking faces responding more positively to us because we tend to look at them as baby-like, and then in turn we receive them positive because they are being positive towards us. Some faces are more symmetrical than others. People are more attracted to faces that are more symmetrical in comparison. That makes sense. With those that are less symmetrical faces, so people with faces that are more symmetrical are seen as more attractive or arousing in this instance, right? Because these are just things that we're responding to involuntarily. This would be an instance in which I would use arousing because it says some faces are more symmetrical than others. People are attracted to faces that are more symmetrical in comparison with those that are less symmetrical, meaning that we just respond to those things involuntarily. We see them and we respond to them. So this may be in part because of the perception that people with symmetrical faces are more healthy and thus make better reproductive mates. Reproduction, evolution, because symmetrical faces seem more familiar and thus less threatening to us. So I concentrate on this part, which you can't evolve unless you're reproducing. So again, this has to do with arousal. And it wouldn't be a personal choice that we're making about what we're attracted to. This would, in mass, affect most of the people in your sex. So if I say something is arousing to a guy, more than likely it's arousing to most of the guys. Same with a female. If I said this guy is arousing to this female, more than likely he's arousing to most other females. Now, does that mean they're attracted to him or they're going to be attracted to him? No, that has to do with a personal choice. Now, the attraction to symmetry is not limited to face perception. Body symmetry is also a likely indicator of good genes, and women favor more symmetrical men as sexual partners. Although you might think that we would prefer faces that are unusual or unique, in fact, the opposite is true. Langelos and Blackman showed college students the faces of men and women. The faces were composites made up of the average of 2, 4, 8, 16, or 32 faces. The researchers found that the more faces that were averaged into the stimulus, the more attractive it was judged. As with the findings for facial symmetry, one possible explanation for our liking of average faces is that because they are more similar to the ones that we have frequently seen, they are thus more familiar to us. So they're saying that these things, such as healthy skin, good teeth, a smiling expression, and good grooming, and I would have to agree, have to do with arousal all alone. Because, well, yeah, because if you don't have healthy skin, good teeth, a smiling expression, and good grooming, well, remember how I told you, Physical attractiveness comes into play into arousal as well. You have to be physically attractive as well. Well, even the big bosom, big bottom woman that I mentioned earlier in my example, even if she has all of those things that most men would find arousing, if she doesn't have healthy skin, good teeth, a smiley expression, or even good grooming, I would say those men wouldn't be that aroused by that woman because there are things about her that are just not arousing at all. Things that she does have in her favor that would seem to make her more arousing are drowned out by the other very big important factors in arousal, which is hygiene, dental care, all of those things. Although the preference for youth, symmetry, and averageness appear to be universal, at least some differences in perceived attractiveness are due to social factors. What is seen as attractive in one culture may not be seen as attractive in another, and what is attractive in a culture at one time may not be attractive at another time. To consider one example, in modern Western cultures, thin is in, and people prefer those who have little excess fat and who look physically fit. So, so what they're talking about is social conditioning, essentially, in which, yeah, they talk about how thin is in, that women used to be thin at the time. This would have been from 2005. Women that were thin were seen as more attractive than more voluptuous women, I'll say. Now, there's social conditioning now where they're pushing that big women are attractive. Guys might make a choice to want to bang them, but does that mean they're arousing to us? Okay, they're not, because then their body's not in symmetry. Any of the things that I was just mentioning, you're overweight, not when you're over your BMI. And you got to remember that typically the health of your body is reflected in your dental health, and dental health is typically reflected in the health of your body. They complement each other. So those who have good dental hygiene and good dental health are also typically physically healthy. They have a good physical makeup as well, and vice versa. Let's go ahead and get started on episode 2, How I Met Your Mother, season 1.
Okay, where was I? Think I'm in love with you.
What? Oh, Dad.
Now, this show is very well put together. I think in a lot of ways it changed the landscape. It was doing something that really no other sitcom has, in my opinion, lived up to.
So you're not gonna call him? You went from I think I'm in love with you to I'm not gonna call her?
Marshall says that I love you to you're not going to call. Ted tried to say I'm not in love with her because Robin doesn't want these characteristics. She wants no strings attached, which again, when women are young, they choose to be desired.
I wasn't in love with her. I think I'm in love with you. Okay, I was briefly in love with the abstract concept of getting married. That had absolutely nothing to do with Robin.
Hey, look who I ran into.
Since when do you guys know each other?
Oh, since about here. Lily recognized me from the news and hello, sailor.
I don't know. I just have this feeling. She's the future Mrs. Ted Mosby. Lily, you squeaked? She said something about me, didn't she? Come on, spill it, Red.
Fine. So, what do we think of Ted?
Even in the data sets that we looked at earlier, he's being all the things that women say that they actually like and that they are attracted to. And Robin even acknowledges this to Ted. She acknowledges this even to Lily later in this episode. I agree. I wouldn't say that, but he's being open. He's being vulnerable. He's being communicative. He's being all the things that even in our data that we looked at that women say they are attracted to. But you notice how the show frames it as him coming on a little bit strong.
Else.
Huh. I'm gonna spin that as good. Lots of guys are something. I'm something else. That's part of my charm.
But that's part of his charm. Oh, totally. He's sweet, he's charming, he's just looking for something a little bit more serious than I am. Most I can handle right now is something casual. This just stays between us, right? Are you kidding? This flapper, Fort Knox.
30 seconds later.
Oops.
Well, it's casual. Okay, I'll be casual. I'm gonna be a mushroom cloud of casual. You know why?
This is the modern dating move for most men. You gotta be casual. You can't be open and affectionate. This is the hookup age. Girls just want to have fun. Having fun, they do not want to feel like willing participants in these hookup cultures. They want to just go along, feel like it's happening. He wants to turn off those traits and characteristics that women say that they actually want. He's trying to do that by saying he's not going to call her.
Having a party next Friday?
We are now. Casual. If only I knew her schedule, I could arrange a chance encounter.
What Robin just stated is pure desire. She wants something, no strings attached. That's the most that she can handle is what she said. She said that Ted wants something a little more than what she's willing to give. But if you're at least attracted to this guy, what I mean though is she aroused by him? I would say that's a resounding no. And she said the most that she can handle is something, no strings attached, and he wants something more long term. She uses the term casually, the traits that women say that they want. Notice how this woman is influencing this man that has these characteristics and traits that most women say that they actually want. How she is influencing him to now be the opposite of that.
Ever since Marcia put that ring on her finger, Lily had been extra affectionate.
No. I have a 25-page paper on constitutional law due Monday. I barely started.
Hey, I'm just sitting here wearing my ring. My beautiful ring. Kinda makes wearing other stuff seem wrong. My shirt. And I don't want to wear my shirt anymore. Or my underwear. That's right, I'm not wearing any.
No underwear.
We notice that he isn't confident and he isn't assertive, and he's already putting the woman on the pedestal. That means he's already off to a bad start. But he gets a date because we learn that he's an aspiring architect. They'll tell you that they want to be romanticized, but when women are young, they want to be desired. Only when women are older do they want to be romanticized. And Robin, she's about in her prime. She's actually a little bit out of her prime, but she's still close to it. So it just goes to show you, this is just helping confirm and reaffirm that women actually like these arousing traits. That's where you get these bad boys and these non-committal types. And why do women like bad boys and those bad boy archetypes? Because bad boys and those type of guys typically have traditionally masculine behavior. And the first step to having those traditionally masculine behaviors is rule number one: men and women are not the same. A man that understands that can't believe or even move and behave in the way that these feminists say men should move and behave, that scream about equality. Those men understand from the gate that we're not equal, we're not the same, and therefore they move and behave in that way as well.
Throwing a party in 2 hours. Okay, bye.
So what I'm trying to state is that the type of man that most women find arousing typically don't have the mindset that men and women are equal. And moreover, this mindset influences traits these men have, which in turn influences behavior. And these traits and behaviors, which are influenced by that specific mindset, are what arouses most women. Now, this is typically why most women are attracted to bad boys, because of the specific traits and behaviors they display. And just like the stats we looked at earlier in the show, both men and women alike shows the character of a man in the workforce by these perceived traits and behaviors.
What are you doing? Robin shows up. I got it all planned out. She steps through the door. And where's Ted? Not eagerly waiting by the door. No, I'm across the room at my drafting table, showing some foxy young thing all my cool architecture stuff. So Robin strolls over, and I casually give her one of these. Hey, what's up?
Now, what you see happening here is Ted trying to balance both sides of the coin. He's trying to keep himself attractive, but also arousing to Robin. Now, this is why he is very calm and collected while he's talking to the other girl. Then he goes back into the conversation with the other girl to give off that air of being nonchalant. He wants to portray himself as somebody that just goes with the flow. He is, again, being casual. And you will see him trying to maintain that balance between the two, which is not caring too much, but at the same time caring just enough to intrigue the female, which is Robin. So let's continue on and watch how this plays out.
She says, hey, nice place, etc., etc. And then I say, well, make yourself at home. And I casually return to my conversation. Then, an hour later, you're still here? I say, like I don't really care. But it's a nice surprise. And then very casually, wanna see the roof? Get her up to the roof, and the roof takes care of the rest. What's so special about the roof?
Oh, the moon, the stars, the shimmering skyline. You can't not fall in love with that.
We do it up there sometimes. Solid plan, my little friend. We're the same height. But may I say,
Ted is trying to strike a balance here between the nice guy and the carefree Chad. Now, what you see Ted doing here is what I discussed in my thesis, and that is Ted is attempting to mimic the unrealistic idea of the type of mate most women search for. A masculine man who is open and thoughtful.
but may I suggest one little modification? That foxy young thing you were chatting up, take her up to the roof and have sex with her, crazy monkey style. That's not the plan. It should be the plan. I mean, look at her. Ted, look at her. She's smoking.
Cute.
But she's not Robin. Exactly. Ted, let's wrap.
Okay, so Barney is actually trying to give Ted sound advice on his issue with trying to attract Robin. And that is, take the hot girl that you're actually talking to in the scenario, take her upstairs and have sex with her. And how does Ted respond? By saying that's not part of the plan. And that is because Ted, like most modern men, believe in this idea of finding the one. And I'll talk about this a little bit later. But what Barney is actually telling Ted is actually more beneficial to him instead of trying to pine over Robin to try to attract Robin to him. If she was aroused by Ted, she would naturally attract to him anyway. But again, Ted says that's not part of the plan. Well, it should be. Look at her. Look how hot she is. She's smoking. And this actually illuminates another truth that I like to talk about on the show, and that is women love the attention that they get from being desired. Even though this girl and Barney aren't really interacting, she says thank you to Barney because, like most modern women, she enjoys the attention from being desired.
Statistic. At every New York party, there's always a girl who has no idea whose party she's at. She knows no one you know, and you will never see her again. Do you see where I'm going? How with this? Barney. Scoping. Scoping.
And you're a dork.
Now, Barney is actually trying to equip Ted with the actions he should be taking to appear more arousing to Robin. By engaging with this other attractive woman, Robin would find Ted more arousing, and even if she didn't, Ted would still have the other attractive woman, so it's a win-win. However, Ted believes, as do a lot of modern men, that they need to find the one. Essentially, viewing romantic endeavors as the woman does. Barney actually displays a lot of the characteristics that most women would find arousing. And this is why you see him hooked up on the show. Of course, he's viewed negatively concerning those characteristics. And this is one of the main reasons that Barney is viewed negatively on the show. This is an example of the media showing you a truth, but disguising it as something else. And Barney actually has insightful takes on the problems that Ted faces romantically. And this is because Barney understands that there is a big difference between men and women and the motivations that they take romantically. Ted does not seem to understand that there is a difference between men and women, but Barney does. And Barney understands what women say they are attracted to and what actually arouses women are oftentimes very different. So this is why Barney is trying to help Ted without basically telling him straight up the truth. He's trying to guide him into the right direction. And you'll see this throughout the series.
Excuse me. Anyone want Carlos? No. On a silver platter. Bon appetit. I don't think so. Your loss or gain. Excuse me. Can I show you the roof? It's magical up there.
Sure.
Wait, hey, I got that roof reserved.
Now, this seems to be one of the biggest differences between Barney and Ted. Barney typically takes things into his own hands, while Ted believes that things will tend to work themselves out. This is why Barney on the show typically ends up getting what he wants, at least romantically, and Ted is usually left to deal with problems that Barney himself doesn't. And you'll find out later in the series just why Barney behaves the way he does, but just know that there is a good reason behind it. And this is why looking at these two different archetypes of man, and this is why most young men should emulate Barney's mindset rather than Ted's. Because if you were to do that, you may end up getting more of the results you want rather than being like Ted here and getting none of the results that he wants.
Dude, Robin's not coming. Hey, she's gonna show up. She'll show up. She didn't show up.
At least it was a great party.
I ate like 4 whole cans of dip.
You always know what to say, old friend.
Again, we notice that Barney is spot on with his predictions. When he says, dude, she's not coming. He already knows. And he's proven to be right. And you will barely find a time where Barney is incorrect when it comes to the women on the show. Not just the women around him like Lily and Robin, but also other women that he may try to court. He's only wrong a few times. Like later in the series when he talks about the naked man and his predictions on that. We also see Marshall again being portrayed as the goofy buffoon. A lot of his statements in the series are buffoonish for the most part. There's few times where he is actually taken serious. Whereas things that Barney actually talks about, at least from an intersexual dynamics perspective, tends to be more correct than not. Now let's continue.
It's Robin.
Answer it.
No, not right away. Gotta seem casual.
I'm so sorry I missed your party.
Who is this, Meredith?
So if you are already in that situation and you find yourself doing things for this woman all the time, you gotta immediately just start going ghost, saying you're busy, you don't have time for this, make up excuses, and you'll probably after a while, you see how long she tries to reach out to you after you start saying that you're busy. But she probably will reach back out to see what's going on with you so she can put the feelers out, see how you're doing. Maybe you're going through a bad patch, and now that you're doing good, you can help her again. You gotta understand, once you cut that behavior out, you're not gonna want to go back to it, which is doing things for women for nothing more than them existing because they're one.
Oh, Robin! Right. Yeah, guess you never showed up, did you?
No, I got stuck at work, but they finally got that kid out of the crane machine.
Did he get to keep the purple giraffe?
Yeah, they let him keep all the toys. He was in there a long time, and little kids have small bladders. I wish your party was tonight.
It is. The party's tonight. Yeah, it's a 2-day party, because that's just how we roll.
What did I just previously say? When women are young and attractive, they want to be desired, not romanticized. What Robin just stated is pure desire. She wants something, no strings attached. That's the most that she can handle, is what she said. And Ken wants something a little more than what she's willing to give. But again, if you're at least attracted to this guy.
So if you want to swing by, it's casual. See ya. So that was Robin. What are you doing to me, man? I got a paper to write. Sorry, it's terrible. I'll buy with a plate and French onion.
You believe this guy got a paper right? Fine, but it's gotta be like super quick and no cuddling after.
I'm the luckiest girl alive.
Oh, you were so right about the roof. The roof is on fire, Ted. Go for last night?
And so this next scene that is coming up, we're going to see the results that Barney has with women versus the results that Ted has with women. And you'll notice that Barney has more success with women because of the way that he behaves, the way that he interacts with women. And this comes down to the way that both Ted and Barney view relationships. Now, as I stated before, Ted, he likes to romanticize the woman that he is trying to get with, whereas Barney just desires them. And you'll see from Ted trying to romanticize these women that they are not aroused by that, and that they are more aroused by the fact that they are desired. And we'll see this play out in a later scene, how desire versus romanticism works when it comes to courting new women. And what we'll notice is a difference between Ted and Barney in the way they approach intersexual dynamics and how they deal with women. Now let's continue.
I took her back to my place, then this morning took her outside, spun her around a couple times, and sent her walking. She will never find her way back, and there she is. Where did she get here? Did you invite her?
I have no idea who that is.
She said she works with Carlos. Who's Carlos?
I don't know any Carlos.
Hi, you're back.
I sure am. Come on, sweetie, I need a drink.
Sweetie? Really?
Oh, rabbits! Come on, I got that roof reserved.
So, it's over between me and works with Carlos girl.
Whoa, that was fast.
Yeah. I was trying to think, what's the quickest way to get rid of a girl you just met? I think I'm in love with you.
Once again, we're getting another truth by Barney. And that truth is, how does he get rid of a girl that is clinging on to him after he's already hooked up with her? And he said, oh yeah, I know. How about I just give her the old Ted special? That is, of course, what he does when he states that, I think I'm in love with you. And what does she do? She's not having any of that, because it goes back to what I talk about all the time. And that is, modern women do not want to be romanticized. They want to be desired. Now, of course, Barney is villainized. This is one of the things that he's villainized for, is the way that he interacts with women. But this is Barney actually giving you young men a truth. And the show, they know this. The show writers, they wrote this in here, and they know this. And you can see by the way the woman behaves that he is being, again, truthful with how to deal with women. Now, let's see how this story plays out.
What? Thanks, bro.
Monica? No, come on!
Sorry, Ted.
Wait! What am I gonna do when Robin shows up?
She'll show up. He didn't show up.
This is a benefit that women have in mass over men, because guys come up to them. And so they get to meet and talk to a lot of more people than probably the average guy. So you just got to be able to put yourself out there and just talk to people. I make it a point to sit there and listen to people when they talk to me. And this can be a stranger from the street, or engage in conversations that sometimes are uncomfortable to me. And I think that young men, you should always do this. Engage in conversations that may make you feel uncomfortable, or just come from a person that is strange, right? You know, it's not an obvious fact. There are a million women in New York, and he's hung up on this one because he states that Robin doesn't want to get married. That's not very arousing to most women, because he doesn't want to come off as being someone that's not casual. So we're going to see Ted try and reframe this.
I had sex with Marshall. It's Robin. Hello?
Hi, Ted.
Amanda? Oh, Denise, sorry, you totally sounded like Amanda.
It's Robin.
Oh, Robin! Hi.
I totally wanted to come. I got stuck at work again. I feel like I live there. Sorry I missed your party again.
Hey, ain't no thing but a chicken wing, mamacita.
Who am I?
I guess there's no chance your 2-dayer turned into a 3-dayer.
It did indeed. The party continues tonight. Yeah. Last night, people were like, keep it going, bro! Party trifecta!
Wow, okay. Well, I'll be there.
Great. See you tonight. So that was Robin. So I threw a third party for Robin on a Sunday night. Oh, this is lame. Lame. Or casual.
Hey, Lawbugs. Ready for a little 15-minute recess?
Sorry, baby, I gotta work. I need all my blood up here. Has anybody seen an introduction to contract, tort, and restitution statutes from 1865 to 1923? Anybody seen a big-ass book?
Hello, Barney.
Of course.
Look well. Is it weird they invited both of us?
Now, Barney, he exemplifies the characteristics, the traits, and the behaviors that young men actually want to learn and pick up. Now, as you know, in the show, that is demonized. Behaviors, his mannerisms, his characteristics, they're all demonized. Why? Because masculinity, bad. Femininity, good. Ted is the feminine version to what Barney is. They're two sides of the same coin. Barney is the truth teller when it comes to women. Now, Barney is who women are actually aroused by. Now, you notice in the show already, Barney is never without women. He's always with women, and that is because Barney understands what makes you arousing as a man are the things that are quite opposite of what women say they're attracted to.
Who invited you? No one even knows who you are.
I understand you're hurt, but you don't have to be cruel. Carlos was right about you.
Who is Carlos? Okay, where the hell is my... Oh!
Okay, an introduction to contract, tort, and restitution statutes from 1865 to 1923.
Now, y'all know that every chance that I get regarding this series, I always like to highlight the goofy husband trope that Marshall often portrays on the show. And even though Marshall is oftentimes portrayed as goofy on the show and virtually inexperienced with women, he is going to tell Ted the same thing that Barney told Ted at an earlier party. Because even Marshall, who is virtually inexperienced with women, understands that Robin is just not aroused by Ted, and that she most likely won't even show up to the party. But let's see how that plays out. Let's continue.
It's not a coaster! Ted, I'm jeopardizing my law career so you can throw not one, not two, but 3 parties for some girl that you just met who's probably not even gonna show up. I mean, where is she, Ted, huh? Where's Robin? Hi, Robin.
So you threw all these parties for me?
Is we don't get to hear most of that conversation. That's when listening to the other characters. But if you notice the way that he moves and the way that Ted moves, he was immediately able to get Robin out to the roof that he didn't know anything about, right? That's Ted and Marshall and Lily's part. They know about that roof, but this guy is getting Robin up to the roof. And all you have to do is look at how he moves, his characteristics, his traits versus those of Ted.
No. Oh, you thought that... no!
All right, obviously you saw that he broke. He couldn't take it. Now it puts him in an even more weaker position when it comes to dealing with Robin. And we'll see that as the series plays out. We look back at the article from the Harvard Business Review. It talks about how men display certain characteristics in the workplace can actually backfire on them, but they see it as less competent. One of those is displaying vulnerability.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I threw these parties was so that I could introduce you to, this guy. I figured, since it didn't work out between us, and now we can just laugh about it. Anyway, Robin, this is Carlos.
Here's a loving guy, and Robin even acknowledges this. Like I said, what women say they're attracted to and what they're actually aroused by are often very
You want to
different.
get married, and right now there's 1 million women in New York looking for exactly you. But Robin ain't one of them.
She's not just one of them, she's the one. Yeah, well, the one is heading up to the roof. What are you gonna do?
Nothing. It's a game. I gotta just keep playing it.
Carlos, can you give me some...
That doesn't come off as casual. That doesn't come off as confident. As soon as she starts to disappear, boom, up pops Ted. He would have been better off ignoring her or acting like he didn't care what she was doing.
But Hey, no sweat, hombre. Robin, look, I didn't throw this party to set you up with Carlos. I threw these parties because I wanted to see you.
Well, here I am.
There's something here. Look, unless I'm crazy.
You're not crazy. I don't know, Ted. I mean, we barely know each other.
Trying to still win this woman. He's still trying to appeal to the characteristics that women just don't find arousing. He would be better off now just talking up another female at the party. Not necessarily forgetting about Robin, keep her on the back burner in your mind. But it depends on what his goal is. Does he want to A, hook up with her, or does he B, want to be in a relationship with her? If he wants to be in a relationship with her, he at least has to pretend he is not paying attention to her, right? He has to pretend that he doesn't care, and that is not being shown by what he's doing and the way he's behaving. Because the characteristics and traits that he's giving off even now aren't arousing. Someone might find it attractive that this guy is trying to do all this stuff just to be with them and going out of their way.
And you're looking at me with that look, and it's like,
What? Like what?
like, let's fall in love and get married and have kids and drive them to soccer practice.
Don't force sports on them unless they're interested.
It's a great look.
Here's that vulnerability and communication that women today complain about not receiving from men. But they only beg for that vulnerability and communication from the type of man that arouses them. Ironically, those are the type of men that understand that women aren't actually aroused by those traits.
You're looking at the wrong girl.
No.
Yes, you are. I don't want to get married right now, maybe ever. And if we got together, I'd feel like I'd either have to marry you or break your heart, and I just couldn't do either of those things. Just like you can't turn off the way you feel.
Now, you'll notice that Robin says that she doesn't want marriage right now and clarifies by saying maybe later, which is to say that it's possible that she may want to get married later, but for certain, not right now. She doesn't want marriage. And this goes back to what I state all the time, which is when women are young, they want to be desired, not romanticized. So Robin would prefer to be desired right now while she's young rather than to be in a romantic relationship such as a marriage. And again, we see that Ted is still trying to negotiate arousal with Robin. He thinks that he can just turn this off and on. And this is a problem for a lot of young men, not realizing that arousal is what it is. Either the woman is aroused by you or she is not. And we're going to see just how aroused Robin is by Ted. Let's continue.
Let's pick.
What?
That was the off switch. And I turned it off. You're right.
Again, you can see her resisting. She is not feeling Ted in that way. Like I said, she might be attracted to him, but she's just not aroused. Now watch how Ted reacts after this kiss. He just reaffirms that no, you can't turn it off.
There's no off switch. Wish there was an off switch.
Me too.
No.
But, we could be friends.
Oh, like.
I know it sounds insincere when people say that.
She's saying, I can't turn off how I feel. You're just not arousing. You're not a guy that I can even see myself being with, because that is what women ultimately look for. They look for long-term relationships. So when she says that, she's not being entirely truthful. So she let them know straight up that she don't want the arousing. But she's saying it in womanese. That's so the way that women like to say things. And then she goes on to say, just like you can't turn who you are. It goes on to believe that what she means by that is a switch in which he turned off how he feels.
I mean, such a jackass to myself. Here we start hanging out. Every time I see you, it'll be like, oh, that's right, I'm a jackass.
You're not a jackass. I'm sorry. I only moved here in April, and I'm always working, and I just haven't met a lot of good people so far. But I understand.
Well, maybe in a few months, after it's not so fresh, we could all get a beer.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll see you, Ted.
Or, now, we could all get a beer now.
I'd like that.
My friends are gonna love you. Like you. As a friend. Yes.
There it is. He opens up. He becomes vulnerable, and he displays his emotion. Here's the problem with that. When it comes to emotions, women become black belts probably before their 18th birthday. Learn, understand how to use their emotions and use the judo of their emotions to flip it back on their opponent. And this is an example. When women are young and they're hot, they want to be desired. I mean, she's acknowledging that there's something there. That's the attraction. That's not the arousal. Because if she was aroused by him, she wouldn't have these thoughts in her head. She would just go with the flow. But an arousing guy isn't a guy that's searching for commitment or being vulnerable, displaying his emotion. Ultimately, he's not a guy that's saying, I love you, especially after the first date.
That's just a recipe for disaster. They work together. You jealous? Please. What does Carlos have that I don't?
Date tonight?
Stop the tape, rewind, play it again.
A date tonight?
I'm not sure I like her. Hey, don't you have a paper right?
So here we have Barney here again telling us another truth, which is you don't want to date or be involved with women that you work with. It makes it very difficult when inevitably things fall apart, having to go to work every day and see that person. And it puts a lot of tension in the work environment as well. So again, Barney is letting you know another truth, which is you don't want to date women that you are working with. You don't want to be involved with them because it leads to a lot of issues.
Dude, you're talking to the kid.
I know it.
I'm gonna knock back this beer. I'm gonna knock back one more beer. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna write a 25-page paper. I'm gonna hand it in and I'm gonna get an A. My name is Rufus, and that's the truth.
Now, if you notice, Marshall is quite intelligent, at least when it comes to book smarts, at least. But yet, the show is portraying him mostly as a buffoon. And I get that it is a sitcom, but you're going to see the same portrayal in most movies and television shows, especially. Now, as I mentioned in my opening, you're going to see Robin pay Ted lip service. But as I've told you before, the majority of this episode, she has actually punished him for not being traditionally masculine, for not keeping that frame. But she's about ready to pay him lip service here. And you're going to hear her pay Ted some lip service like most modern women do to men that they don't find arousing. So, again, women will pay lip service to guys that aren't in their traditionally masculine role, who don't fit inside that frame. However, they punish those guys by not engaging with them romantically. Now let's see how Robin actually pays Ted lip service.
You got a B minus. But still, 25 pages in one night, B minus? The kid was good.
Come on, I'll buy everyone.
I'll carry. Yeah, something, Ted.
You are a catch. We're gonna make some girl very happy, and I am going to cook this lunch.
Well, good luck. New York's just too big a town. I mean, there's millions of people in this city. How in all this mess is a guy supposed to find the love of his life? I mean, where do you even begin?
Hi, have you met Ted?
So again, you see the lack of assertiveness and confidence in Ted, but it's displayed through Robin. Yet, if you remember, she's just doing something that was used on her by who? Another guy. Barney. Barney is the ultimate. I'm telling you, Barney has all of the knowledge when it comes to how to move. And you just know that, and you'll see later in the series that Robin goes on to be one of the guys' wingman, but she doesn't actually have any real ganging. She just used the tactic that Barney used on her. And the have you met so-and-so, you just know that, again, that whole woman came up with that idea that men are going to realize that it's not going to work because you have to build rapport with the woman. And it's not really a very unique, it's unique. And it's not even that great of a pickup line because it would only be good for maybe a handful of times, maybe, but they use it all the time on the show. And again, most men are not going to use something so corny as, hey, have you met? What did we learn from this episode of How I Met Your Mother? We learned that women have unrealistic ideals about the type of man they desire. Things that women say they are attracted to are secondary to the things that women are actually aroused by. And what are those things that women are aroused by? and a man, competence, competency, assertiveness. Now, it looks like we are coming to our conclusion. We learned that Roger Rabbit has it all. She gets it all from every corner in her life to the last. Every corner of her life. Well, you're going to look at from a romantic aspect that Robin's stating to Lily what casual tales for a man. You're going to get traits, you're going to get characteristics and behaviors that are not what women say they are attracted to, which is why you have the bad boy stereotypes still, bad boy archetypes, and the misunderstood, the broody male that women find arousing. You got your Dawson's Creek, you got your Beverly Hills 90210, you got all of these shows that, especially if you want to the 90s, and what you see these broody males, these males that posed the masculinity, they were stoic, they were bad boys. If you've watched the show Gilmore Girls, if you've watched the show Gilmore Girls, you literally have two different archetypes of man that the young daughter is involved with. One, Dean, is nice, he's clean cut, he has all the attractive traits, and he's even tall. I think Jared, kind of like he is about 6'2", 6'3", or something like that. Maybe like 6'1", can't remember. But he's got all the attractive traits. He's smart. He's empathetic. He kind of caters to Rory in the show. And then you have the other guy that Rory starts to deal with later as college comes around, as she starts to enter into college. I don't know how to pronounce the last name either, but he was on shows like Heroes. Anyway, he's shorter, but he had all of the other traits and behaviors that would be the opposite to what Dean was. And you even see them come to a head in the show. But Rory was just as attractive, and I say attractive, no. But Rory was more aroused by that character than Dean's character. Because Dean, he had attractive traits, he didn't have many arousing traits. Whereas the other guy, he was very arousing to Rory. So you're going to have to continually be working on that. And we know that from one of our earlier data points. And we know that from one of the data sets that we looked at earlier in the show. That is the first priority when it comes to men. Youth and beauty. So, for a woman that has the traits and characteristics, she's modest, she's chaste, loving, she's joyful. None of that matters if the cake isn't there, which is she's affectionate, she's physical and youth and fertility. You're not going to want to miss our next show, which we'll be talking about women and the need to have it all. And can they actually have it all? We're going to be releasing 2 shorts a week along with a video every week. You want to make sure you hit that notification, hit that subscribe button, give us a follow our next show of the FM podcast. I am your host, the Blackman. We love you. Make sure you give us a follow, hit that like button. We'll see you next time.